folks, I'm Matt, and welcome to the Good Trouble Show. The UAP topic, UAPs being the new acronym for UFOs, is the subject the government doesn't want to talk about and has managed to keep it under wraps for decades. With the closure of the Pentagon's UFO investigation Project Blue Book in 1970, the Department of Defense told the public there was, well, nothing to see here and that they would no longer investigate UFOs. This Pentagon lie was blown wide open when the New York Times published this story on the front page, Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's mysterious UFO program. The article by journalists Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal featured Pentagon whistleblower Lue Elizondo, who revealed the government had a secret program ATIP to investigate UFOs, and Lue had been the head of it. The Pentagon brass was enraged by the revelation as lawmakers began to suspect that the Pentagon and the CIA had been lying to Congress for decades. Fast forward to 2023 when Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal ran this story in the debrief, quote, intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. In the article, Pentagon whistleblower and former intelligence official David Grusch went public, revealing that the Pentagon had been running a UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program for decades. Soon after, David Grusch appeared in an interview on News Nation with investigative reporter Ross Coulthart, revealing further details about the secretive UAP program. Later that summer, in another black eye for the Department of Defense and the CIA, Grusch testified under oath in front of Congress, not only confirming details of the crash retrieval and back engineering program, but revealing that the Pentagon, the Air Force Office of Special Investigation, and the CIA were engaged in an illegal mass psychological operation against the citizens of the United States for the past 75 years to hide the existence of UAP and the fact that they had crashed craft. The Pentagon and the CIA went into full damage control mode, holding classified emergency meetings at the Pentagon Public Affairs offices inside the Pentagon building to deal with the fallout from Grusch's congressional testimony. Now, keep in mind that none of this would have been possible without the journalistic work of Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and Ross Coulthart. Other journalists, including Christopher Sharp of the Liberation Times, independent journalist Matt Laslau, Mark von Rennenkamp, and others who actually put journalistic integrity to cover this story ahead of their own self-interest. Now, unsurprisingly, much of the mainstream media failed to cover the story, while surprisingly, a network of hack journalists began publishing hit pieces to discredit David Grusch. Following the hearing, journalist Ken Klippenstein wrote a hit piece for The Intercept, revealing that Grusch had PTSD and depression, with Klippenstein later admitting the CIA had illegally fed him specific information of where to find and how to FOIA Grusch's medical records and information, which, of course, should have been protected under federal HIPAA law. Thus began a trend of a handful of shady journalists seeking to destroy the credibility of any major player in exposing the Pentagon and the CIA's lies while feigning journalistic integrity. This was nowhere more apparent than with New York Post reporter Steven Greenstreet, that's him on the right next to the founder of the Black Vault, John Greenwald, who responded to news that Grusch was on the spectrum by tweeting this, quote, was whistleblower David Grusch groomed by deceitful UFO activists? Adding, quote, a new study shows that the ability to distinguish truth from lies is diminished in people with autism spectrum disorder, putting them at great risk of being manipulated. Now, this pattern continued as he released videos at the New York Post spinning lies and conspiracy theories that whistleblowers like Lue Elizondo, David Grusch, and others had fooled Congress. Soon after, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of AARO, the congressionally mandated UAP investigative office, began parroting Greenstreet's conspiracy theories. Most recently, Greenstreet sunk to a new low, targeting retired Navy Rear Admiral and former National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Administrator, it's a mouthful there, Tim Gallaudet. Now, Admiral Gallaudet has been gaining significant traction in the mainstream press, advocating for UAP transparency and revealing his experiences with UAP while in the Navy, including the Go Fast incident. In this latest example, Greenstreet launched a series of disgusting tweets on X, targeting Admiral Gallaudet's young children and wife, all to defame the retired Rear Admiral. So you must ask yourself two questions. First, what kind of journalist would defame an altruistic, decorated former Navy Rear Admiral whose resume is 14 pages of accomplishments serving our nation? Second, and most importantly, what kind of journalist, or decent human being for that matter, would use Admiral Gallaudet's children and wife as a weapon to defame the Admiral? The answer to those questions may lie in articles about Greenstreet during the Occupy Wall Street protests. Greenstreet released the film Hot Chicks of Occupy Wall Street, which garnered immediate attention from journalists and bloggers writing about sexual harassment at the protests. A writer named Jill wrote an article for the blog site Feminist titled, "Steven Greenstreet proves he's definitely not a misogynist by making rape jokes." She noted, quote, "To protect the privacy of people who are Steven Greenstreet's Facebook friends, and because I just don't feel like digging my heels in on this one, I've taken down the screenshot of Steven's Facebook page. On that page, Steven linked to his Hot Chicks of Occupy Wall Street video and added, quote, 'The way me and a colleague contribute to the movement.' A friend of his comments, 'Way to legitimize the movement, Steve.' Steven replies, 'An erection legitimizes anything.' His friend replies, 'Even rape?' Steven Greenstreet says, 'It probably wouldn't be rape without one.'" Amanda Marcotte's article covered Greenstreet's video for Raw Story titled, "Speaking Out About OWS Sexual Harassment." In the story, she shares a quote from a former employee of the nonprofit Campus Progress. Quote, "So, my fun little inside baseball story. When Campus Progress, the nonprofit I used to work for in DC, first launched in 2024, one of the first things we did was try and promote a campus tour of a small documentary film made by Steven Greenstreet. We sent him to college campuses across the country to do a Q&A with students and put him up in hotels and expensed him. The relationship went sour when we started getting expense invoices back from him and hotel bills that included charges for pornographic movies. Then he called one of my female coworkers a during a phone call. And that's the last time anyone at a major progressive organization ever worked with Steven Greenstreet again." Various Redditors archived dozens of Reddit posts by Greenstreet, ending with the phrase "black, click black." The phrase seemingly points to a news story where he wonders if the headline involves African Americans. He clicks the story and finds it is indeed about African Americans, and here are just a few examples. 8 arrested at kindergarten, black, click black. Huge fight in the cafeteria of Alabama State University during lunch, black, click black. 500-man brawl erupts outside DC High School, black, click black. And then, of course, this Twitter post by Greenstreet, quote, "The official national portrait of Michelle Obama." I could go on and on. Now, the targeting of former national security officials and military veterans, while surprising, is to be expected. But Steven Greenstreet, sinking to the level of weaponizing Admiral Gallaudet's wife and children, is absolutely beyond the pale. Amazingly, he is still employed by the New York Post, and that calls into question their journalistic integrity. Steven Greenstreet fancies himself an investigative journalist, but in reality, he is nothing more than a hack who thrives living amongst the garbage in a street gutter. Street.